From the author of Spinsterella, The Strange and Unusual Romance and Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black comes the legendary Mad Matilda. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. I got a comment from one of these manginas on my I Need a Haircut video, and this individual wanted to question my credibility for making the I Need a Haircut video. Now, I made that video in response to several people, whether they be trolls or not, who were questioning my appearance on camera. Now, I know I haven't had a haircut in 2 months due to financial issues, and this person was so concerned they wanted to make a comment about it. So I said, I'm going to make a video working towards solutions because I'm all about a solution to a problem. I feel if people are going to propose a problem in a comment section, I'm going to ask them to work towards the solution. And me making the I Need a Haircut video was all about working towards a solution to my problem. And this individual says that is going to impede my credibility by making that video. Now, that video was no different than my other videos that I have done regarding the Kickstarter that I did in 2015, regarding the ISIS and Eusteen crossover, and other videos I've done regarding other Kickstarters or other funding projects for book covers. That was me asking for help towards solving a problem because many people were complaining about the book covers that were on the SJS Direct titles that I used to draw because I just didn't have the money to pay artists. And then when I go out and I try to raise funds for them, I find that many of these same individuals are the ones then complaining again that I am asking for money. I look at it this way. Again, if you can complain about a problem, you can work towards the solution. And if you are serious about working towards the solution, you're going to help me get the money towards solving the problem. You can't complain about a problem and then say, I'm not going to participate in the solution. When you do that, you show everyone that you're not about solutions. You just want someone to shut up because they're talking about a problem you don't want to deal with. And I find it funny that he's questioning my credibility about me asking for money when I have taken every dollar that I have been donated to me and I've actually used it for what I actually said I was going to do. And that and evidence of that is in many of the ads you see for many of the books that are presented before every one of these videos. That ISIS Samurai Goddess commercial that you see on many of my videos, that was a book cover that was paid for by a donation from an anonymous donor. That ISIS Night of the Vampires cover you see, and that East Team Undercover cover you see, that was paid for by a Kickstarter from donors. And the recent legendary Mad Matilda cover was partially paid for by a donor. And in addition to the money I get from those donors, I also chipped in some of my own money on several of those projects. So I have shown you a track record of taking the money that is donated to me and actually using it towards what I said I was going to use it for. And clear evidence of that is on Amazon.com right now in all the books that I mentioned. All those books have covers, professional covers on them, and all of them, with the exception of Legendary Mad Matilda, which is coming out this Halloween, are available on Amazon.com for you to purchase. And in addition to that, I have itemized receipts that show you how I spent that money. All my money is documented. All my expenses are documented. I can go back and show everyone how the money is spent. So how does that impede my credibility, and how does that lead to my credibility being questionable when I have a paper trail to show how my money is spent? When you look at my record, you see that it's perfectly clear and transparent. It's not like that of your Dr. Umar Johnson, who took the Negro's $500,000 and spent it on natural hair strippers. I mean, this man promised to give you a school how many years ago? And not a single ground has been broken, and not a single brick has been laid on that school for boys.
But my credibility is come into question, and I'm showing you a track record of expenses and products that are available right now on Amazon.com. I'm the liar, but Umar Johnson is telling you the truth. Moreover, I can look at your Tanya TKO, a former YouTuber, who said she was homeless and did a GoFundMe and got $12,000 out of black people, and not a single person asked her for a receipt. Not a single person asked her for documentation. Not a single person asked her about any sort of credibility. They just handed her $12,000, and then she went on her way, and not a single person asked her to be accountable for a single dollar spent. But they come to me talking about me asking for a haircut. It makes my credibility questionable, even though I have shown them a clear track record of being consistent in my actions. And other people have come online, like this YouTube fascist group, were organizing a non-profit to try to get black men taken off of YouTube. Nobody's questioning their credibility, yet they can raise $9,000, and no one has a single word to say about these females raising any sort of money or how they're going to spend that money. Again, I see people spend it getting 10, 15, 20 times more money than I asked for a $13 haircut. And people have no problem giving money to them, but they're going to question my credibility, even though I have shown them time and time again in my actions. I have been consistent in my actions in taking the money that is given to me and spending it on what I said I was going to spend it on. I am clearly showing you a consistent pattern of integrity, showing you how consistent my character is, and showing you how consistent I am in my actions with every dollar donated. Every dollar that is donated to me for book covers is spent on book covers. Every dollar that is donated to me for things like haircuts will be spent on haircuts. I make sure that every dollar that I spend is spent the way it's supposed to be spent, because as a guy who has been struggling, I know the value of a dollar, and I value my audience that much to take the money that they give me and use it for what I'm supposed to use it for, because I respect all my viewers out there, and I appreciate everything that they have done for me to help support me during these hard times. I appreciate everything that they're doing for me, and that's why I take every dollar that they give me and I use it the way I'm supposed to use it. Because the way I see it, you know, you work hard for that money, and I know the value of your labor. And for you to take $5, $10, $20, $50, whatever, and give it to me, that's money that you're taking out of your own personal money to do that with. And I don't want to squander that money and waste it. For me, I want to get the best value for your money, and that's why I go out of my way to spend it the way I spend it. And for me, that's just something that I would do because I believe in doing unto others as I would have them do unto me. And that's why I go out of my way to show the people how much integrity I have regarding spending their money. Now, this same individual wanted to take jabs at me because for several of my other books, like the Simp series. And this individual, again, talking about how I haven't had a girlfriend for 25 years, but how could I talk about relationships? Well, I have this to say to this individual. Do you need to touch fire to know that it burns? Do you need to touch water to know that it's wet? If I've lived in the South Bronx among a whole bunch of dysfunctional Negroes who have participated in dysfunctional behavior, and I've observed that behavior, I can comment on it, and better yet, I can comment on it because I am coming at it from an objective perspective. So when I write a book like a Stop Simpin', that's coming from an objective perspective, a guy who has no dogs in the race and understands what behaviors that are destructive to people. Moreover, I have done the research by studying mental health and licensed psychotherapists like your Dr. Robert Glover, who talk about this in his No More Mr. Nice Guy, and other psychotherapists. So I'm coming at it from a mental health perspective. So when I write a book like Stop Simpin', Manginas, or Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho, I'm not just coming from opinion. I'm coming from the place of a balanced, objective perspective from numerous sources. This is something that your Steve Harvey doesn't have, but people will give Steve Harvey and say that he's credible. But your Steve Harvey is no more a relationship expert than I am. Yet, when I write the books coming from the perspectives of mental health professionals and licensed psychotherapists, you want to question my credibility, but you won't question the credibility of Steve Harvey, a best-selling author who sits there and gives people relationship advice, even though this man has been through 3 divorces and has been involved with some of the most predatory women on the planet. I can say honestly, when you read a Stop Simping, when guys read that book, they come out of it with a better understanding of relationships because they can look at it and say, look, I can see these patterns of behavior and I can see how they're dysfunctional, and they start making efforts to break out of the paradigm. Because I've heard from guys who told me after reading Stop Simping, and even some women who have read Stop Simping, they can see the dysfunctional paradigm far more clearly than they did before. So how can you question my credibility when I'm not just coming from opinion like Steve Harvey? I'm coming from the perspective of licensed psychotherapists, mental health counselors, and numerous people and numerous sources. So my books are far more credible than that of a Steve Harvey. But you want to say my credibility is questionable, even though the books that I design actually help men and have actually helped some women understand the dysfunctional paradigm of the simp and the simp paradigm and the nice guy paradigm far more clearly than they would have if they were to just read something like your Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. Your Steve Harvey, everybody calls him a relationship expert, but he has no medical background whatsoever, but no one ever thinks to question his credibility, but you want to question my credibility. Again, showing me how backwards some of these manginas are in their attempts to try to take a shot at someone, and then showing how jealous they are. Now, this same individual also goes on to try to talk about my unemployment situation and try to use that as a low blow. And for them, again, I propose another solution. You can help me find a job. This is the same proposal I gave in another video about a year ago or a couple of months ago, where I said, help Shawn find a job. Because if you are so concerned about things, then you can go out of your way to help someone work towards solving the problem. I have stated the problem in numerous videos that I have a hard time finding employment, and I've had a hard time ever since 2008, since the so-called Great Recession. And I remember during the so-called Great Recession running into a literal brick wall that I've still continued to run into. And back then it was even worse because people like myself who were looking for work, we were told by many employers they weren't hiring anyone except unless they were working, and not even to apply for a job unless you already had a job. And even worse than that, guys like me would run into discrimination when we look for jobs, because I remember going to many of these so-called hiring pools, which were run by civil service, and they went out of their way to hire women over men, and they did things in such a covert way that you could not call them on their discrimination. These black women and white women and Hispanic women, they would go together with your female on-group preference, and what they would do is they would go out and hire women and then say, because we hired a female who's a minority, we aren't discriminating, but that keeps black men like myself from being able to get hired because they come together with their female on-group preference and then say, because we're hiring minority women, we're hiring minorities, and then black man can't get the job. And in some cases, when he also goes to apply blindly, can't even get the interview because they've formed this brick wall that keeps you from coming in. And even when you go out and apply for jobs and get interviews, they still don't want to hire you, people like me, because you come in and they always try to find some sort of excuse to avoid hiring you so they can go hire some female or somebody else. And this is what I've run into for the last 8 years with this job market here in New York. You just run into a brick wall. You send out resumes, because I put in 20, 30 resumes a day when I go to the library at Indeed.com and many other websites. I'm just putting in applications almost every day. And all I run into are excuses from people who are afraid to take a risk on me. And that's even in spite of showing you a track record of finished projects, finished products, and a work rate that shows that I can work on a consistent and regular basis. I mean, in 2013, I published 13 books. What does that have to show someone about a guy's work rate? For a guy to publish 13 books in 1 year, that has to say something about someone when the 2 or 3 previous years, he was only publishing one book a year or two books a year, and he publishes 13 straight, and then since then has published at least 6 or 7 books a year. That shows you a person who is very reliable, very consistent, and is very hardworking and conscientious. Unfortunately, you can't show people something that they don't want to see, because when it comes down to the job market, as I've seen these days, in order to show people something, they have to see it one way. And that's one of the big problems I run into with this job market is everybody wants it doesn't see something unless somebody else is telling them that's true. It's like you can do it for yourself. Oh, the guy did it on his own, so it's not true. But if a guy does it for somebody else, it's true. And that's completely insane when you can go to Amazon.com and see the track record that I have done publishing books consistently, networking with different artists, and networking with different people. You show the record, but this guy has no credibility in most people's eyes, even though he has shown that he can do the work. People want to see it only if it's from a white person or another company. That's the insanity that I have run into in the job market. But this person again wants to complain about me having a hard time in the job market when the solution is you can help me find a job. Again, I'm all about solutions, not about people coming in and taking shots about the problem. For me, taking a shot at the problem shows that you just want me to shut up because you don't want me to talk about a problem that you don't want to deal with in your own life. So me coming to you and saying, hey, here's a solution that requires you to actually put some effort in, you don't want to do that because you don't want to be able to put a hand in something because you don't want to be responsible for anything. You just want to take a cheap shot at someone. Now, I've had some people propose to me to move, but I just don't have the money to move. If I had the money to move, I would move. And the whole thing is, in order to get a job someplace, you have to have money to go to that place. And that's the big problem with me right now is I just don't have enough money to make that move. That's why I'm saying I need a job right now and I need a solution right now. It's because for me, I'm about solutions. If I got a job today, tomorrow, next week, I would not be here making videos right now. I'd be at work right now because I'm about going to work. I would go to work the next day if I got a job offer. And that's the big problem with me is that I'm waiting to try to find a job offer. I'm not a picky guy. I mean, I've applied at Target 9, 10 times. I've applied at Toys R Us 4 or 5 times. I've applied at numerous places like Walgreens at least 2, 3 times. It's not that I don't want to work. It's that people do not want to hire me for some reason, and they're afraid of taking a risk on me. So I say to them, again, if you see a guy who's asking for help, you help that person out. You just don't sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to pass this guy by, even though this guy is asking for help. I'm asking for people to help me solve the problem. I've been out of work for a long time, and I'm looking to get back on my feet. And I'm looking to do that, and I'm showing people that while I was out of work, I was actually active in doing things for myself. If these companies wouldn't hire me, I was actively out here trying to start something and trying to help others by creating positive African American fiction and nonfiction that has helped transform people's lives. So I'm showing you a constructive record of things that I have done. Unfortunately, what I run into are a lot of people who want to take shots and want to question my credibility when all you have to do is take a look at my record and I show how consistent I am in my actions and how consistently credible I am by the things that I do and that the actions that I take. I find it sad that you can question my credibility, but you won't question the credibility of your Dr. Umar Johnson, your Tanya TKOs, or your Girl Who Swirls, and many of the others who have taken black dollars and hustled black people for them, whereas the guy like myself who takes the black dollar and makes an effort to invest it, that's the guy whose credibility you want to question. And I'm showing you consistently that every dollar that I get, I use the way it's supposed to be used, but I'm supposed to be the guy whose credibility needs to be questioned. If you want to help me make more videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to help me by supporting the SJS Direct Publishing imprint, you can click the link to Amazon.com. And if you have some job leads, you can leave them in the messages section of YouTube. Or if you want to hire me, you can talk to me on YouTube or Facebook about employment. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.